Hi, hello and welcome back to F1 Challenge VB. My name is Mephisto and our epic journey through the history of Formula 1 continues today with the 4th round of the 1959 season, the French Grand Prix. It was held on the 5th of July. It had 22 entries with 21 of them taking part in the race, 10 however ended up retiring for various reasons. The race consisted of 50 laps completed in 2 hours, 1 minute and 26 seconds. Tony Brooks started the race from pole with Jack Brabham in 2nd, Phil Hill 3rd, Stirling Moss 4th and Jean Berra in 5th. Brooks drove an amazing race to win the French Grand Prix. Phil Hill came in 2nd, 27.5 seconds later. Brabham finished in 3rd, 1 minute 37.7 seconds behind Brooks. Gendebien crossed the line in 4th, he was 1 minute 47.5 seconds behind, and rounding off the top 5 was Bruce McLaren, who was 1 minute 47.7 seconds adrift. Stirling Moss was the fastest man of the race and he posted a lap of 2 minutes 22.8 seconds. The French Grand Prix is once again held in Reims this year, and a lap starts off with a long run down into turn 1, an open right-hander. Turn 2 is another open right-hander, although this tightens up a bit towards the exit. Turn 3 is next, an open left-hander that brings us into turn 4, a right-hand hairpin. Hug the inside and be very careful when applying power as the car likes to swap ends through here. This brings us onto the longest straight of the track. Time to relax a bit before coming into turn 5, another right-hand hairpin. Once again, take it easy and don't use too much power. But this brings us around onto the main straight, and that is a lap around the Reims circuit. And here we are in qualifying for the French Grand Prix, coming around to set our first timed lap, a 2:27.067. Not a very fast lap, especially not compared to Dan Gurney's pole time, but I couldn't go any faster. I tried to improve and I did a bit, 2:25.86. however I couldn't find any more pace, so that is pretty much it for qualifying for us. And here are the previous French Grand Prix winners. We won a couple of times, actually just once, back in 1952. That was in Rouen, not here although it wasn't on this track. So anyway, we have Dan Gurney on pole with Jack Brabham in 2nd. Tony Brooks is 3rd, 4th is Bruce McLaren, and rounding off the top 5 we have Maurice Trintignant. 6th is Maston Gregory, Stirling Moss 7th, 8th is Graham Hill, followed by Phil Hill in 9th, Andy Higgs qualified in 10th, Joe Bonnier 11th, 12th is Innes Ireland, Harry Schell 13th, 14th is Ronald Lockhart, Gendebien 15th, Burgess 16th, 17th is Cliff Allison, Shelby 18th, 19th is Roy Salvadori, and bringing up the rear is Jean Berra in 20th. So those are the grid positions, the grid lineup, and looking forward to a good French Grand Prix. Generally the races in Reims go pretty well, so here's hoping. And I switched immediately to the replay because the game started to lag a lot. Not entirely sure why, but anyway, we saw a bit of puff of smoke from coming off my wheels, and then we also saw 2 Ferraris pulling away almost immediately. That was quite interesting. And here I am kind of using the old part of the track to stop. At this point the lag was completely unbearable. Again, you don't see it in this replay, but the lag was very, very bad. And here again I'm stopping because I couldn't really do anything. The lag was really, really, really bad. It has something to do with memory leak. Every time the cars collide with each other or with the environment, it's kind of annoying, but this happened throughout the entirety of the opening lap, and here's why. Here's a replay of Gendebien in his Ferrari coming around through turn 1 here. He loses control of his car, spins off. He manages to save the car, and he's now turning around, drives into the world's toughest wheat field, loses a wheel, and he is out of the French Grand Prix. We also have Jean Berra, who is coming into turn 1, loses control of his car, crashes into the hedge there and loses his front left. We also have Phil Hill, who loses control of his car and then gets collected by the number 4 Ferrari, not entirely sure who that is, and then a Aston Martin crashes into him as well. So all of this causes lag, and this is Tony Brooks losing control of his Ferrari, crashing into the wheat field there, losing a wheel, flipping upside down, and he is out of the race as well. Next we have Burgess in the only Maserati on track, who also loses control of his car there, and then kind of gets stuck behind that little shack. Unfortunately, he forgets that he has a reverse gear and kind of gets stuck there. This is Carroll Shelby here coming around and crashes into, I forgot who that was, Phil Hill I believe, and that's the end of him. And here is Cliff Ellison, who number 4 Ferrari, who also crashed into the number 10. So those were all adding to the lag at the start of the race. And this is Ronald Lockhart, who apparently has a problem with his suspension. He pulls to the side there, but unfortunately we cannot see anything because of the camera angle, and what's happening is happening just beyond the brow of the hill there. So that was kind of a useless camera angle, but hey, what can you do? As we now move on to the second lap, where the lag completely disappeared, which was quite good, and we managed to move up into 11th, only due solely to all the retirements. Eventually Dan Gurney also loses control of his Ferrari, breaks his front right, and he is out of the race. However, he's the only Ferrari who managed to at least finish a single lap. Then towards the end of the lap, of lap 2, Joe Bonnier lost control of his car, and we managed to move up into 10th. So this is the first proper overtake of the race for us, which is quite impressive. And then on lap 5 I made a huge mistake. I broke a bit late, broke too hard, locked up my rear, spun the car, crashed into the wall, my engine died, and unlike in at the Dutch Grand Prix, I decided that if the engine dies, then that's it for the race. So we are out, and here's a replay of Joe Bonnier coming into the first of the hairpins. He loses control of the car, spins it around, and forgets that he has a reverse gear. And here's a replay of myself coming into the second and final hairpin. I lock up my wheels, lose control of the car, hit this little wall here, and since the engine died, I decided to, even though the game restarts my engine for some reason, I don't know, I still decided that if the engine dies, then that's the end of the race. In real life, you wouldn't have a way to restart these engines, even these old engines. So yeah, that is it for us, unfortunately. And here is the man of the hour coming around to take the win of the French Grand Prix, Bruce McLaren. And I believe this is the first Grand Prix victory for the New Zealander, so that's quite interesting. Well, the first win here in this series, I believe, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, Trintignant finished in second, Graham Hill third, Innes Ireland fourth, and Sterling Moss in fifth. And Dan Gurney, who retired after only one lap, managed to post the fastest time of the race, which is quite impressive considering that he only completed one lap. And here are the retirements, quite a few, although not as many retirements as we've seen throughout the rest of the season. So that's kind of good, makes me happy when I see kind of an equal number of finishers and retirees. So despite the fact that I retired from the race, I still feel pretty good about it overall. But anyway, here are the career statistics, and this was Andy's 80th Grand Prix. His best start is from first, has 4 pole positions, has set 15 fastest laps. His best finishes in first, has completed 55 races, 47 of them in the points, has won 30 Grand Prix, 4 at the Indianapolis 500, 5 at the Monaco Grand Prix, has 6 championships under his belt, has scored a total of 326 points, has retired 25 times, has experienced 1,855 out of 2,256 laps, has 5 bronze trophies, 7 silver trophies, 30 gold trophies, and as an extension 30 podiums. And here we have a quick look at the championship standings. The drivers first. Andy Higgs is still leading the championship. Bruce McLaren and Trintignant are sharing second with 10 points. Burgess is 4th and Jack Brabham 5th. The last person to have scored points is Dan Gurney down in 12th, and Cliff Ellison is at the very bottom of the standings. So Higgs is starting to be in trouble. Both Bruce McLaren, Maurice Trintignant, and even Ian Burgess could pose a significant threat if they manage to pull themselves together. Even Jack Brabham could pose a threat later on in the series, which actually I'm looking forward to. That would be quite nice, I'd say. But anyway, let's move on to the constructors. And first place is shared between Maserati, Porsche, and Cooper Climax, all on 8 points. Aston Martin are in 4th and Lotus are in 5th with 6 and 4 points respectively. So here once again, there's quite an interesting development. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen, but we'll have to wait and see, obviously. So that was the French Grand Prix. Quite a, well, I wouldn't say good race, but a better race than what we had so far this season. So that makes me happy. We didn't finish, but at least a decent amount of AI drivers managed to complete the race, which, as I said, makes me happy. Anyway, our next race is the German Grand Prix, and for the very first time we will not go to the Nordschleife, which is kind of sad because that's my favorite circuit of all time. This time we will be heading on to Berlin at a very special track called Avis, a very interesting track. It technically only has 2 corners, well, 3 corners really, and 2 very, very long straights. It is a 4.5 kilometer track, I believe. Quite an interesting track. Anyway, so yeah, that's going to be our next race. For the time being, that is the end of the French Grand Prix, the end of this video. Once again, a fairly decent race. But anyway, don't forget to vote for next season's team. Link is in the description. I also have a second channel where I will be playing all sorts of different games. At the moment, I'm doing a playthrough of Need for Speed Underground 2. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description to that as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, stay sharp.